Mereoleona has just dropped in Black Clover Mobile on the global side of the game, and as such, we are going to be doing a build guide for her. I do have her up to 62,000 total CC so far. I don't have the last dupe of her. I do have a versatile mage piece I can use, but I think I'm going to pull on her banner a little bit more, so we'll see if I'm able to get that last dupe. But I've already done like a full rotation and a half, and then I've also completed the step up banner, and yeah, I just got really unlucky. I've literally only gotten one copy of her skill page as well, and that was from the step up banner, so very rough summons for me. But anyways, today we're going to talk about how you guys should be building this character, what skills you want to work on upgrading first, what gear you want to equip on her, whether or not you should enhance her, what skill pages you want to put on her, what talents you want to run on her, and then of course what team she's going to fit well on for both PvE and PvP. So let's start by talking about what she can do really quickly in case you guys do not know. So her unique passive, upon having 8 SPs or a full special gauge, grants Mana Skin, and Mana Skin is going to give 30% reduced damage taken and status element immunity. That is big, right? So that means turn 1 she has status element immunity and she's not going to take very much damage. And then if you have her enhanced passive at 2 dupes, right, at the start of a wave, inflicts taunt on the enemy with the highest all attack for 1 turn. So this is really good because she's going to taunt the enemy with the highest attack, and then she is going to be immune to their status elements. So like Julius, if you had a stun, she's immune to that, and she reduces the damage by 30%. That is really solid for a defender. And then her skill 1 is called Kalidos Iron Fist. If an enemy is taking continuous damage, which they will be if you have her max duped, like guaranteed, it inflicts taunt on them for 2 turns. Okay, that is really nice. The only way they really wouldn't have burning damage on them is if they had a way to get rid of it, like maybe with Summer Ghosh, who can block burns, right? So he's actually coming. It's weird because we have these characters who weren't really used before coming into the meta now because of Mereoleona, so it's nice. But yeah, typically they're going to be burning if you have her max duped, because every time she gets attacked, she is going to burn the enemy for 2 turns, which is nice. And that means you will probably be able to taunt pretty much every turn with your skill 1, which is really nice. So it is kind of worth upgrading skill 1. I wouldn't say it's your top priority, but it's definitely up there. And then her Kalidos Brachium Barrage is an AoE and attacks after inflicting barrier removal on a designated enemy. And then the big thing though, this comes from her skill page, grants all allies Mana Skin for 2 turns. Like, it's not that great if you don't have her skill page, so I highly recommend, if you can, equipping her skill page to her. But granting Mana Skin is good because Mana Skin is going to give you status element immunity and reduces damage received by 30% for all your allies. That's freaking good, right? That's so good. So that's insanely good. And then her special skill is called Kalidos Brachium, if I'm saying that right, Brachium, and it grants an extra turn upon killing an enemy, similar to Julius, right? And then for every instance of continuous burn damage an enemy is taking, attacks after granting a 65% increased damage dealt buff. That is per burn. That can make her hit insanely hard as a defender type unit. That is really good. And it's a single target attack, so keep that in mind. But that is really good. Attacks after inflicting barrier removal on an enemy as well. So she has guaranteed barrier removal on this skill as well. So this skill is insanely good. But I would say the one that might even be better and you might end up using more is her combined attack, right? So her combined attack is going to inflict continuous burn damage on the enemy for 2 turns, and it is an AoE. And the reason why I say this is good is because if you combine this particular combined attack with like a person who gives defense penetration or something like that, she can be insanely good. So in terms of upgrade priority, I would technically say your special skill is the first upgrade priority, and then I would say it's either skill 1 or your combo skill, just kind of depending on what you're building towards. Are you building towards that AoE defense penetration, or are you building more towards like you're going to be taunting every turn, might as well get as much damage in as you can while you're taunting. And then last but not least, I would go for upgrading her skill 2, because to be honest, you're probably not going to be using her skill 2 every turn. You'll use it like once to give the Mana Skin to allies, and then after that you're going to be using your other skills more often than you're using skill 2. So yeah, that's kind of the upgrade priority for her, but really you can't go wrong with upgrading any of these because, like, once again, this is an AoE, does damage. Like, all of her skills have some use in some way, shape, or form, but that is the upgrade priority I would go in. Now, in terms of skill pages, I'm going to give it to you guys straight. Her skill page is the best skill page because of that Mana Skin it gives on skill 2. That is just like really good, right? Additionally, The passive you get, if Mana Skin is present on self upon attacking, there is a 55% chance to attack after granting a 50% increased damage dealt buff. Now you can increase this chance and you can increase the damage, right? I believe it goes up to 100% if I remember right. So activation rate plus 15, plus 15, plus 15. So 65, 80, what is that? 95% activation rate? No way, it has to be 100. I'm pretty sure it's 100. If it's oh yeah, it's 100 because you have 55 here. Yeah, so 100% activation rate if you fully upgrade this, and then you can increase the damage up to 70% increased damage dealt. Like, it's insane if you're able to max dupe this. Unfortunately, like I said, only got one copy, but just giving it to you guys straight, this is the best skill page you can equip on her. Now, if you don't have this skill page, there are other options. So one of those options would be like Mars' skill page, Survival of the Fittest. If you're looking to just build her more defensively, applies 4 to 8% fortified to yourself upon taking damage, and then stacks up to 4 times, and the effect resets at the start of each turn. Like, that's good if you're just trying to have her be attacked, right? Because each time she gets attacked when she's max duped, she's going to burn the enemy, and if you're trying to just make her live longer, Fortify can work out for her. So this is definitely an option you could run on her. Another option would be if you're aiming to go like more of a damage build on her, not so much defense, then you could go Breath of Darkness, and this is like a free to play option, and it applies 10 to 20% increased all attack to yourself, and this is just going to allow Mereoleona to hit harder. Once again, you could use other cards that are similar to this that are more pay to play, like Julius' skill page or stuff like that, if you happen to have those. And last but not least, one of my favorite defensive pages that's fairly easy for people to obtain is Moonlight Necklace. Applies 40 to 80% increased defense depending on how far you have this enhanced, and 6 to 10% increased healing to yourself. Like, that's going to be really good for Mereoleona as well if you're going the tank route. But once again, overall, her skill page is the best. Now, in terms of gear, what should you be equipping on her? Personally, I would recommend this. I'd recommend going for an attack set, a defense set, and a mobility set, and I would go for the gold versions of all those. Now, what do I mean when I say gold versions for those of you that are newer to like the gear and how to set up the gear? Well, if you go to grade here and you go to set, you can see we have attack, defense, HP, mobility, all that. And then over here, you have the same thing, attack, defense, HP, mobility, except for they have a gold star. Gold star sets are always going to give you better bonuses than the regular sets. They are a little bit harder to farm out, but you want to get them if you can. And by equipping 2 pieces of a gold set, you will get the 2-piece bonus. In this case, for the attack set, I get attack plus 7% and magic attack plus 7%. Defense, you get defense plus 30%, which is big, and mobility grants the wearer a 5% increased speed buff for 2 turns at the start of a wave, which is like big. Okay, so these are the 3 I would recommend going on her. Speed is always good to give her her turn back a little bit quicker. She doesn't have the most speed, so giving her a little bit of extra is going to definitely help her out a little bit. And then she is a defender type unit, so you do want to get that extra 30% defense. And then also, as you saw, she can do some really good attack with like her special, for example, depending on how many stacks of burn you have. So you also want to have some attack. That's the reason for those sets. Now, in terms of actual gear, what should you be equipping? I do recommend going for magic attack mainly, and then having 2 defense pieces at least for the extra defense, because once again, she is a defender. So this is a defense piece I have equipped to her, and this is a defense piece I have equipped to her. Everything else is going to be magic attack. And then in terms of substats, what should you be looking for on the substats? Well, magic attack is always good because it's going to give you extra damage if you're going the damage route. But if you're looking to just give her more survivability, I would go either defense, damage resist, crit resist, or anything that's going to give you like crit rate is also good. Crit rate and crit damage, all of those are good. I wouldn't really go HP. HP is really not going to be useful. I wouldn't go attack on her. You don't really need attack, so I need to re-roll some of these, right? But yeah, those are kind of what I go for. Crit resist, damage resist, defense if you want. That's if you're going for the more defensive build. And if you're going for the more offensive build, you're going to go magic attack, you're going to go crit damage, and you're going to go like crit rate. So those are kind of the substats you would go for her. You can build her kind of 2 different ways, so keep that in mind as you are building your character. And then in terms of enhancement, is she worth it? Well, I think we've already kind of established that she is worth it when we were talking about her earlier. But at 2 dupes, you are going to be able to taunt the enemy with the highest all attack. And then at 5 dupes, every time she gets attacked, she burns all enemies on the enemy team for 2 turns, which is insanely good. So max duping her, very, very worth it. Very, very good, right? So if you can max dupe her, I highly, highly recommend doing it. And then in terms of talents, I do have all of the talent trees done here for her, and here's what I'm running. I am running magic attack, and I am running stacking crit rate. The other option I have is giving damage against a boss. Like I could run that in PvE, but like in just general terms, I'd probably go for the magic attack and stacking crit rate. That's going to give her the best attack overall. And then for the stone, I'm running attack, magic attack, increase. You could run other ones, like you could run crit damage, you can run crit rate. It's up to you what you want to run on those. And then for these, I'm running the debuff immunity for 1 turn if HP is equal to or lower than 35%. And then I am also running the defense plus 20%. And then here I have damage resist at 17. Once again, you could switch out the stone for other things if you want, but I feel like damage resist is a good way to go. You could go more endurance, you could go for more defense if you wanted to give her a little bit more defense. It's up to you. Personally, I'm a big fan of damage resist. I think damage resist is pretty good. And then you also have, for the support tree, increased damage resist plus 10% here as well. And then I have the reduced skill 2 cooldown, because once again, if you can get that skill 2 back, that skill 2 is big when you have her skill page equipped, because it gives you that mana skin, right? And that mana skin is going to allow your allies to be immune to status elements and reduce their damage, which is just insanely good. So having that is probably the best possible thing you can put on her. And then you have crit resist here in the support slot. Like I was saying, for the substats, crit resist is really good. You could go for speed, you could go for HP, but in this particular case, I feel like crit resist is probably the best. Now, if you really want your Mereoleona to be faster than others, go for the speed. But that's up to you, kind of depending on what you're looking for and what you want to do. But personally, I think crit resist is kind of the way that I would go on that. But speed is definitely an option for a stone on that talent slot that you could run. Now let's talk about the teams. So I have a couple of different team ideas or builds here for you guys. This first one is like, it was pretty common, I feel like, to see in more, I would say like the lower ranks of JP and KR. And so what you're going to do is you're going to run Mereoleona and Black Asta together, 2 defenders that can both have really high DPS and be really annoying at the same time. And then you're going to run this Charlotte, who can give back SP. She can also give the damage reduction and all that good stuff that she gives, barriers to the ally with the highest attack. So she's really good. And then you have Witch Queen, who's going to be able to heal as well. If you have her max dupe, it's actually a little bit better for this particular team. But this team right here, a lot of people are going to have like Asta max dupe. They're going to have at least a copy of Witch Queen. They're going to have this Mereoleona probably, and then hopefully they'll have a copy of Charlotte because they got her from the gateway. So this is like a very doable team, in my opinion, that if you've been playing the game for any amount of time, like at least since Black Asta released, right, you'll probably have the ability to do this team. So I think this is a good option for a team right here that people could run. Now, some other teams you could run that not everybody might have, okay, would be like this team right here. This is a mono green team, and so a lot of people might have skipped Fauna, for example, or maybe you haven't pulled General Pool Rill yet. Right, but this is a very good mono green team. Now, this team working relies on the idea that Fauna is going to have a particular skill page equipped, and that is going to be Season 3 Fuegoleon skill page, because then she'll do extra damage for each stack of burn, and it just allows her to nuke like crazy. But yeah, this team works out pretty well for mono green. You have her as the defender to give status element immunity and to taunt, and then you have the barriers because you're running mono green from Charlotte. You have the remove buffs of enemies, and you can also incapacitate them and stuff like that with Rill. So this team works out pretty well as a mono green team, but for this team to work out, I will say Fauna needs to be fairly built. So keep that in mind if you are going to try to run that mono green team in particular. And then for this team right here, I really, really like this team because, like I said earlier, we're bringing back in units who haven't had a lot of use up till now. Like this Fuegoleon is going to start to get some use. We're going to see this Ghost used, okay? So the idea here is that Ghost is going to be able to give you dot immunity, or basically immunity for 2 turns off his, I believe it is it his special? I think it's a special. Gives you dot immunity. Yeah, grants all allies continuous damage immunity for 2 turns, right? So that means when you use a special, you will not be taking burn damage from enemy Mereoleonas when you attack them. So that's actually really, really useful, making sure you don't get nuked by an enemy Mereoleona. And then additionally, he can do this right here, which gives increased all attack to an ally, gives them a chance for extra penetration, and gives them sunlight. Sunlight increases their damage by 5%, which is really good. So all those things are good that Ghost can provide. He puts that sunlight and the penetration and stuff on this Fuegoleon, and after the whole enemy team is burnt by your Mereoleona, Fuegoleon just nukes, right? So this works really well, and this team in particular is really good for countering this team right here that a lot of people you will see run with Mereoleona. So this is probably going to be like one of the best teams you can run. However, I will say this character right here, Noelle, is going to be a character that ends up being switched out with other characters. It's going to depend a lot on if people have her duped out or not, because if people don't have this Noelle at least 2 duped, then you're not going to have the passive that makes her really particularly good on this team. So if you have her 2 duped, at the start of a wave, inflicts a 30% increased damage taken debuff on all enemies for 1 turn, right? Without that, you're not going to have that extra damage on turn 1, and it's not going to allow this Fuegoleon to nuke as much as you would like, so people might run another character in this spot. That is going to allow Fuegoleon to nuke a little bit better. But the idea here is similar to the previous team. You're going to be using William to speed up. You're going to be using him for the fortify and stuff like that if you want to, but mainly to like buff Fuegoleon and his speed, and then you're going to be able to use Mereoleona. And you're going to be using combo attack here as well with these 2 potentially, because when you use this William, he is going to give the partner mage penetration level 4. So this is something I think I talked about earlier in the video, where you want to give that penetration, and then when you use that combo skill with Mereoleona, that penetration and that AoE is going to burn them, and it's just going to do a lot of damage, right? So, and then besides that, you will use this speed up probably on Fuegoleon to give Fuegoleon more speed. His main reason for being here, though, is his combo skill with Mereoleona, which works out pretty well. And then she'll be putting the burns on enemies, and then when all the burns are stacked up, he'll be nuking the enemies along with the damage increase from having this Noelle on the team. So this team works out pretty well. But once again, keep in mind, it can be countered by this team right here. So for every team, there is a counter, but I feel like now we're starting to get into a little bit more diverse meta where we get to see some characters used that weren't used as much before. So I am very, very happy about it. But let me know your guys' thoughts down in the comments. Let me know what you guys think of the build guide. And if you guys did enjoy the video, please consider going down there, hitting that like button, hitting that subscribe button, and thank you guys so much for watching. Peace.